Oh, lordy. It's me again. Where is my charging cable? Yeah, this one. I think it's the one. Yep, got it. All right, what are we doing? See, I don't hear that, and it drives me crazy. Oh, whatever. Okay. Did Alien. I loaded the Astral Chain for a minute, but I'm good. What else did I need to check out? I guess two type. No, whatever. Haunted House is a remake of an Atari game that ironically got a remake on Atari 50, like a not a remake. Um, well, I guess it is a remake of it. It's like a fake sequel in the Atari 50. This one up here is designed to be, I guess, like a spiritual successor or something. I don't know. They're all called Haunted House though. It's unfortunate. I see GTA 3, and I remember I have the space, so I'm going to also add GTA Vice City because I've mentioned this before. I'm not a Saints Row fan. I'm not Saints Row, San Andreas fan. To just gonna add all of this stuff, kill my download speeds over the course of the month. It's all good. Saints Row is the other one. Yes. All right, we'll just leave it how it is now. Okay. I'm interested in seeing how this performs because this game on the original Switch ran really bad. Somebody suggested I check it out because I like racing games. I like them when they are racing games. I don't really care for rubber banding a ton of it. I also don't really like it when if you're playing a game and there are cars that are like a similar class and the races are close and somebody like is just really good and pulls past everybody, that's cool with me. What I don't care for is like in Forza, the way they do their stuff where you can upgrade your car. It could be like a C class car and you can upgrade into like A tier, like upper A tier. So all of a sudden it's like flying past like Mustangs. Weird. Not a fan. Oh, this is the striker pack. I believe here-ish is where I started downloading stuff at because I had played Catherine. This is in there. Ease. Yeah, it was about here. Yeah, because alright, so I've been playing MGS3. Prime. I don't have Prime in here. No, Prime is right there. Okay, cool. Cool. Uh, Never finished Prime. I've owned Prime a couple of times over the years. I think I actually have my original disc. I think I got that back recently, but I think it's damaged. Um, Metroid Prime 4 comes out in like a month or two. Let's see. Where do I want to go? Real quick too. Confused. I was like, was that the Quake 1? I wish I could move this fast in Quake 2 with the controller. I'll leave it how it is. I was gonna say I could set the frame rate up to 60, but there's no reason to. Curious. There shouldn't be anybody on this. Still, yo, 20 out of 32. 20 out of 32. How insane. Oh man, that's crazy. That's not what I expected to see at all on a Saturday night. Maybe this is cross-platform multiplayer too, so we're good. Damn, dude, I don't remember this game being around for this long. 2023? I think that's right when it came out. Like on here.
The head of SETI will give a full press conference today in the wake of the verified and authentic non-terrestrial transmission coming from just beyond the asteroid belt in our solar system.
Contact with the colony on Mars will be re-established and have nothing to do with the impending arrival of the mysterious aliens.
The McCulloch space station has just been destroyed.
Casualties from the bomb down in our Mars.
System soldiers
Paris, Peking, Reykjavik, and Tokyo head the list of recent devastated cities. After the recall from what was once known as
a uplifting farewell speech as these brave soldiers took the fight to the Strogs' home planet. We, the rest of humanity, wish them luck and Godspeed as well.
What are your thoughts about Final Fantasy VI? 6 is so good. It's like a sign they need to also add No Man's Sky to that list. The game I keep putting on this list, and I don't know how big it is whatsoever. Yep, we're gonna do that. This is gonna fill up this SD card and murder this murder my bandwidth for a month. This guy I think starts with an L. It starts with a T. No Man's Sky. Here we go. One. It's another Switch 2 game. Because I don't have any Switch 2 games installed really. Everything is a Switch game, or even then, they're retro games that were running on the Switch that I'm now playing on the Switch 2. That one's a questionable choice. No Man's Sky. So many games. the damn this right here. I keep thinking about putting on here. I don't know how to play these damn games. I feel like they're like really mashy, and I'm trying to not do that, and I get destroyed. Whatever, I'll put that on the list too. It is in the back of my mind. Every time people at work will see me wearing certain shirts, like, "Oh, you're into anime?" I was like, "No, I wish. I mean, I was at one point, but I can't. There's too much." And I've told them like my attempt at a gateway into anime has always been like these weird fighting games and stuff. Fighting games, RPGs, whatever for the franchise. I'll check one out, be like, all right, this seems okay, and then tap out because I don't know what's going on. We were playing this game for the first time on PC. It was after I played Unreal, and like the game looks fine. It's whatever. It's just the thing that I hated was the way the enemies would shoot at you sometimes after they were down. I think it's just to be dramatic. But like, it's felt weird. Off the aim assist, sure. Come on, that motion sensor, it'll pass. think there's more secret to that I don't know about. I don't really know Quake 2. Honestly, I didn't really touch much of Quake 2 until they did the this is years. Once they did the RTX version, when ray tracing was, you know, becoming a thing, that's when I was like, all right, Quake 2, not that bad. But before then, dude, I hated it. I don't really think I'm a big fan of it just because it feels so different from Quake 1, but I appreciate what it's trying to do. Like, it's a lot more story based. I mean, there's an actual narrative that you can understand. You're just kind of like going through levels. You're still going through levels, but each level sort of flows into the next one. I think it's pretty cool. Sounded like it broke something, but I guess not. Again, the thing that sucks that happens right there is when they do that, it looks really cool, I guess, whatever, but it'll damage you, and that's another thing. It's like, I get it. I want it to be a little bit more cool looking, I guess, but I wish that wasn't the case. Here you go. So, one of the things I also appreciate about this is this, you get this, when you shoot it, there's like a recoil sometimes, and it'll like go up, and you can pull it back down, and it reminds me of trying to figure out the recoil patterns in Counter-Strike. I remember getting a guide for CS 1.3 or something like that back in the day, and again, this was an 8.0 game, I guess off and on from like 2002 to 2005, 2006. But I would try to learn the spray patterns for the guns. So you have an idea, like, alright, if it goes this way, pull down this way to counteract it. This this gun in particular has a little bit, not much, a little bit. Man, I did not mean to fall right now. Shooting it. God bless you know, I'm just lucky to be here right now. They told me I was never gonna walk again, and you know, here I am in the ring, and I got to do my thing. Your back is broken. What kind of injury did you have? Oh, spinal. One of my favorite stupid Mike Tyson interviews of him not understanding. I felt like he didn't understand anything that was going on in the interview. He was kind of like freestyling. There you go. Low on health. Always happens about now. And this level, all the levels in this game are like, they're longer than the Quake 1 levels too, so. The hell was that? Was that a trap? Guess so. Oh, it does say alarm. Nerved it. I didn't even try to move. I was hoping I could brute force my way past that guy. I guess not. Whatever. Quake 2. Turns out Quake 2 still Quake 2. Let's go check out Inertial Drift. So the catch with this game is that this is a driving game about drifting, you know, like turning sideways, Initial D style. But the difference is that instead of being like Ridge Racer or Daytona or Burnout or whatever, in those games when you drift, it's all about like your brake technique. In this game, you use the left stick to steer, and I want to say the right stick is how much you're drifting. So you're like kind of using both sticks at the same time to sort of rotate around corners. Super cool when you pull it off, but again, when it came out on the original Switch, it ran so bad. It was playable, but it was at like, shoot, I don't know, I'm gonna say maybe like low 30s, if that. Check out this video real quick. Oh man. The story mode, whatever. 40% complete, awesome. Do it. But you know what I want to do? Oh, it's still doing that thing. Just the road ahead and the wind in your hair. There's nothing like it. Thanks for checking out Samira. I really needed a break. Ipa thinks I have talent and that I should work hard not to waste it. I'm trying to learn as much as I can, but it feels like too much at times. Ignore him. It may be all about style, but I like racing too. Don't let you When else spoil that for you? Take your time and race Corey when you feel ready. Oh, life is too short to do things you hate. Facts. Still gonna go to this new track. I'm not gonna hold back, so you shouldn't either. I guess I'm ready. I mean, yeah, you won't know what hit you. I have to remember how to play this game on the fly. I think I'll be alright. So the steering on the cars is absolutely terrible. But you can drift like crazy, which is the whole goal. Smoked right now. Never steering. I don't even see the dude. Damn, man. How the hell does this work? I just lost everything? There's only 2 cars here. It seemed like I came in second on everything. So far ahead. Start. Oh, I gotta lose first. I don't have a single fucking point here, man. hell do I? What am I doing wrong? After that sucking, I mean, we gotta get good, right? He takes off and he's already faster than I am. Maybe I need another car? Even drifting like I feel like I'm supposed to be doing here. I'm still not gaining on him. I'm doing something wrong here. Even the time trials, I'm getting like second place on those. Weird. Ah. What the fudge, dude? Whatever. Whatever. Man. I don't know. Well, anyway, the game's got a lot of style. I just suck at it. Monster Hunter, of course. Splatoon. "13 Sentinels, Unicorn, and Triangle Strategy." That's right. Curious. This game is technically fine. I remember complaining about this to somebody, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I put up a negative review, and like the number of people that were like, "I'm so happy somebody said this." So the first game was just a straight up like NBA Jam type game. This game leans really into the well, it's obviously a 2K game, so it's not VC, but they want you to like get all these card packs, and I don't have a problem with getting card packs. That's cool. But what I didn't like is the fact that like you can't play as any of the teams unless you unlock enough players randomly to play as them. And on top of that too, you don't just have to unlock the players. Like say for me, I live in Georgia. I want to play as the Atlanta Hawks maybe. I can't do it until I unlock the players, and on top of that too, you have to like level up your cards. So then if you have like let's just say you have a team that's like, I don't know, like a Shaq and Kobe on the Lakers, and yours are a platinum, and the person you're playing against has Shaq and Kobe on the Lakers, but they're like silver, they're not gonna have a chance. It's such a weird choice. He is here. I was like, Trey's in the game, right? Trey is here. Remember him being here. Don't remember him being here. Remember him being here. Little streak of blonde. What? Clyde Drexler on the Rockets. That's like the end of his career. Capella. Oh, he's here. What is this roster? No, it's not. Yes. When did they last update this game? This is so weird. Okay, that's that. It's so weird they have all these games and Charles Barkley's not in them. Y'all gonna have to pay me the same amount y'all be playing the All-Stars right now. So weird. Okay, they stopped updating the games. Like, man, Wimby would be in here, and he'd be like a really skinny man. What's his name on Portland? Man, I'm telling you, like, the way they split these rosters up is so weird. There he is. It's Dame time. Next, actually. I really appreciate the fact that they have their period appropriate like gear. Zion's here. Wow. Okay. Oops. The face. Or 22, or yeah, 2022. I like the fact that like you can unlock a Jimmy Butler. I like the fact that you can unlock a player, but then there's also like another version of that player for another team that has different stats. It's good. Look at how many players are here. Man. Isaiah Thomas. I think LeBron's here on the Lakers. He's probably on 3 different teams in this game. There he is. He still has the hair. Just looking at the roster. Oh, here we go. 76ers. Oh, Embiid. And Simmons made the cut. Absolutely. Honestly, the way I became aware of him was playing, I think it was like 2K12, and he was just like, he was somebody you could pass the ball to in different situations. Like, he was great. Always, shots would always go in. Oh. Again, if I don't want to be the Warriors in conference, I don't have enough players in any of the other teams to pick them. I think what it asks you in the beginning is like, hey, what team do you want to play as? And if you choose it, you have to have at least 2 players, but you can't get 2 players unless you randomly get a card pack. Bronze pack. And even if you unlock all the cards, it doesn't matter anyway. Oh.
No team is more connected with their city than the Rockets. When they rallied to win the 1995 championship, Houston became known as Clutch City, and the name stuck. In fact, letters addressed to Clutch City, Texas are actually delivered to Houston. So don't get too comfortable if you find yourself winning. They earned that name. Game on, cuz! Thompson. He had the first score and an extra point to go with it. Life's too short for that kind of shooting. Defense is running down that shot clock. Streak! Thompson with the magic touch on that jumper. The defense is completely controlling the game. He eats the glass. Clang. He crashes the board and clears it out to his teammates. Defense is on him like glue. The attempt goes wide. Ripped his pockets. Supercharged ball lottery pick. The only way you miss that is a block. The defense is all over them. Rebound beast. Supercharged ball coming up. Take that shot from anywhere. Sent up a prayer, and it wasn't answered. Streak. Draymond Green. Strong D controlling that drive. Clay Thompson with a textbook J. Went that way, officer.
Are you playing from jail? Cause man, you are stealing everything. Put the cuffs on you.
The three does not go down.
If this team win that, could they clean this glass all day, baby? 1 more minute to get it done. You better get this done.
He grabs the rock and shares it with his teammates. That is shameful. Cassell. Streak.
Amazing.
Turnover. We got a 2-11 in progress. Defense is like a wall holding back that drive. The
Take it.
chef is in the kitchen.
Down by 3 or up by 3.
He cannot get past his defender.
2.
Thompson. Defense is slowing the drive to a crawl. Short range and lays it in. Ariza. No score on the slam. He grabs the rebound and kicks it out.
Oh, yeah.
Give me that. Every win counts and you earn that one.
Yep, that's Atlanta Hawks score. It's 12-26. Sorry. The game is technically fine. It's just that, like, my biggest issue with that game was it was just the card packs. It was having to unlock card packs to play the teams. Like, if I want to play, what they should have done is they should have given you at least like 2 to 3 players per team, so you can just pick the teams, and then had like this huge roster of like extra players you could get. But no, the way they did it instead is you get to choose the team you want to play as in the beginning of the game, and then you have to unlock card packs to do literally anything else. Let's see if this works now. This is 1 star. Burgers move really fast. Appreciate the fact that they show you what buttons you're pressing. Sure. Defeated 2 enemies. There's a point in that song where it felt like it was getting out of sync. This it's such a pretty song. I just remember I paid my insurance early, so the cool thing is that I don't have to worry about it coming out later. The thing that sucks is like this. It's the money I had. Let's go. Edit party. The Final Fantasy VII game party. You know what? We'll leave it. We'll leave it like this. I think it's the agility. This should be okay. Let's go. think what I would have had to do is compare like high agility and high strength. I think that'll like kind of balance each other out. I'm not sure. All good. What's harder than Ultimate? What's harder than Ultimate? I don't understand. Ultimate or harder? What? Blade pierces all. Oh, damn it. I still survived though. And it said clear on Ultimate or harder. We're good. Boss within 30 seconds. What that means is you would have to have a character that's like super strong that can just destroy them. Because the first thing you fight is the boss. Let's see. Do we have any benefits that? The irony of everybody else having more strength than Barrett. Okay, she's good. Let's see what happens. Let's see how bad this goes. Meme. Try this out. 30 seconds, I said. Wait. I gave it my best effort. That should have been within 30 seconds. What do you mean? Exit that. That holds up pretty well. Klonoa. Baby, I have Klonoa. Honey, I want Klonoa. It's so weird. That old advertisement for Klonoa is... Oh, it's so weird. It sounds like an STD or something. Klonoa. Back over here again. Make sure that thing is... There's two things. We're going to make sure this thing is downloading. Prime is downloading. Adding another game to the list. Not near. Maybe it should be near. It's near and dear to my heart. Man, Neon White was such a cool game. Since nobody's really here anyway, from what I can tell. Could you imagine if you went to go work for a company thinking like, I'm gonna make a video game, and instead of making a video game, like, we need you to make a pinball table. Like, that's not even remotely similar.
I was born and raised in Chicago. I grew up on the city's near west side, which was, I was maybe a mile and a half away from the United Center. It was a fairly rough neighborhood, but from my earliest days, I started, drawing, probably started with a crayon or something, and found myself inspired by cartoons. Anything I saw on TV, I remember Popeye was a big thing that I watched a lot. Seeing Bruce Lee on the Batman television series was a big thing for me. I didn't know who he was. And this was when I discovered, oh, he's this thing called a martial artist. That was the birth of my Kung Fu consciousness. Whenever I watched a TV show that excited me or saw a movie that excited me, the first thing I did was draw a picture and try to retell those stories as comic books. For some reason, the most difficult thing for me was to find stuff to draw on. Paper was at a premium, so whenever I could get paper, I would, draw on it. I would draw on the backs of things. I'd draw on magazines, whatever I had. Paper seemed to be expensive. Growing up in the city, graffiti art was a big thing that was happening at the time, especially in the early 80s. A lot of the time, we would do stuff, on the sneak. And then I think we discovered after a while, if you just knock on a door and ask, a lot of the times they'll let you paint a mural on the side of their business or whatever it was. And so we did a lot of murals in the mid-late 80s. But I was a huge comic book reader, both DC and Marvel, and found a lot of inspiration from the comic book artists who were popular at the time. And so, of course, it was my dream to illustrate comic books, and eventually actually got a job doing it, and used that money to kind of pay my way through school. Most of the work I did was for a comic book called The Real Ghostbusters, based on the cartoon that was out at the time. I was still at the American Academy of Art, so I was still in college, and I was still illustrating the Ghostbusters comic book, when a friend of mine who I met at the American Academy of Art named John Vogel got a job at Williams Electronics doing pixel art for video games.
He had gotten a job at Now Comics, and he wanted me to help him with Real Ghostbusters. And I was like, sure. So he got me an interview at Now Comics. Then once I got my job at Williams Bally Midway, Mark Turmel now needs an artist. Who can we get to work with him? And I'm like, I know a guy that's doing the Ghostbusters comic book,
And John called me up and said that they were looking for another artist. When I was hired at Williams, it was to work on Smash TV. And so I interviewed with Mark, I interviewed with Eugene Jarvis.
Amazing guy, amazing artist, working on Smash TV. He came up with this animation that the character, as he exploded, the eyeball came up right facing you in the face. And basically he had to, 3D rotate all this stuff. Like the man was a human 3D rendering system. The guy's a genius.
So Smash TV was a lot of fun to work on, a lot of hand-drawn pixel sprites, very small graphics in terms of the character art that I was creating. I know that in the back of my mind, I still wanted to do comic book art, but I fell in love with video games and the folks that I worked with at Williams, and I knew right away that, hey, this is the place for me.
Smash TV. Big money, big prizes. He gave her some bigger sprites.
North California Avenue went back to the 40s. That's where Harry Williams and Lynn Durant had started United Manufacturing.
I was always obviously a big fan of Midway, and I always knew it was on California, and I would drive by and it's like, oh, that's this magic place, and that's where these amazing games were made.
It was weird. It's very Chicago. It's gritty. The paint is from like, it's government green from 1947.
It was in the pinball factory.
So you walk into the front door and through the factory to get to our offices in the back.
I mean, within a space of what, 20 feet? You go from silence to like, cacophony.
It was like an assembly line.
There were just Terminator 2s, just hundreds of them in line being developed, and all the sounds going off, terminated, and like all the explosions going off. I was gobsmacked.
Miles and miles of wires and
a lot of fumes from the in-house plating facility, the stamping machines, the burning soldering irons.
Everything smacking into itself, just all these sounds. And
they actually had 50-ton metal presses stamping out pinball legs.
The factory still had dirt floor.
Throw things on the floor because somebody's going to come by and sweep it up.
So you have this catacomb.
At night when you're leaving, like the lights are down, and it's like, wow, this would be a great setting for a horror movie or something.
And being a programmer, a lot of times we worked at night. That's when the rats would come out. They would grow to the size of like a small cat. But I remember the vending machines, rats could jump up and get the product, so it'd have to be only the top 2 or 3 rows you could put a candy bar or something. And even then, sometimes you would buy something and it would just be a wrapper.
There used to be a cafeteria upstairs at a private chef.
And the food was delicious. They had it down. We never left the building, okay? We half an hour to suck it up and get out and go back to work.
Then you'd make it to your office. And the offices were pretty Spartan. They were rough.
Work on video games happened in what we called downstairs. Upstairs was all of engineering.
Everybody had an office, so it was almost like a dorm.
The first time I remember meeting Ed was when John Vogel and I had shared an office.
So I feel like I was involved with Smash TV and Total Carnage because I could see it being made. Ed Boon, I didn't know anything about him. I mean, he was a programmer in the pinball department at that point.
Ed was coming down from the pinball department to work in the video game department.
To work on high-impact football with Eugene. Right next door to me, there was a double office, and it had John Tobias and John Vogel.
And there was a doorway between the 2 offices that was kind of kept closed. He cranked his music really loud, and I remember he poked his head in, and he said, hey, is that too loud? Is the music too loud? And we said, it's a little loud, so he went in and like lowered the music, and he came back, he's like, is that too loud? So anyway, that's the first time I met Ed, and after that, I think Ed started hanging around with the group of us, and we all kind of became fast friends.
And I was mainly software, those guys were mainly art, so we had different perspectives and whatnot, just as any group of guys in their 20s. A lot of conversations started up about movies and video games and wouldn't it be cool and things like that.
You could hear conversations of all the different games going on. There was only like 2 or 3 games going on. And then we would all kind of like give each other ideas for stuff. It was a very collaborative environment.
The environment was beautiful. Good enough to make a video game, and
it didn't feel like a job.
All the magic that was happening there. Somehow the walls kind of absorbed all of it.
At that point, John was finishing Total Carnage and I was finishing Super High Impact.
I eat quarterback for breakfast!
When we started to talk about what would become Mortal Kombat, I think the initial conversation was about, hey, wouldn't it be cool to do a one-on-one fighting game?
John and I were talking about a game called Street Fighter, who had really big characters. The thing that stood out for us about Street Fighter was they had really big characters on the screen.
I think for me it was anything to get away from the little tiny character sprites that I had done in the last 2 games.
And we were saying, how cool would it be to have our digitized characters?
Street Fighter is kind of fantastical hand animation, beautiful stuff, but their vision was, let's take this photorealistic system we have now and have a photorealistic fighting game.
For me, it was the opportunity to take all this inspiration from all the Kung Fu films that I grew up watching and kind of throwing it into a game.
The conversation went towards Jean-Claude Van Damme. At some point, just fixated on the idea of doing a photorealistic Van Damme fighting game. And we put a presentation together when we gave it to Roger Sharp.
We're thinking of Jean-Claude Van Damme. Let's see if he's interested.
The reason we made a video to pitch to Jean-Claude Van Damme was because another team at Midway had done the same thing with Terminator arcade game as well as Revolution X to Aerosmith. And so we decided just to go that route because they were having success with doing that. We found the movie Bloodsport, and we basically grabbed a number of frames of him just kind of getting into a fighting stance pose, and we put the power bars and we kind of mocked up what a generic fighting game screen. And again, just to give him the idea of what the game would look like, how he would be the star, and how realistic the graphics would be.
And I reached out, and it wasn't a no. Whether or not things didn't happen quickly enough, I don't think that it was ever like a door closed. John and Ed thought, Roger, just forget it. Because I think we just kind of left it.
So that was just kind of like the way that you would pitch an idea. But as far as to management, my recollection was that we never gave a formal presentation. Street Fighter was really big, and when we said we want to do a fighting game like this with our graphics, there wasn't much convincing that needed to be done. It was, yes, that obviously is a really cool idea.
I thought it was a fantastic idea, and I knew that I had to still finish Total Carnage, and I know Ed was still working on High Impact. But I think that was the beginning of the conversation.
Maybe our next game could be this fighting game.
The team on Mortal Kombat 1 was 4 of us.
My name is Ed Boone. I'm co-designer and programmer. My name's Dan Forden, and I do sounds and music. John Vogel, background special effects. John Tobias, and co-designer and lead artist.
There was other sort of support staff, but that was had to do more with like the cabinet and the wiring.
A team being composed of, I think, 4, 5, 6 people was not uncommon.
You were in one of 2 categories, programmer or artist, and that was basically it. Everything felt like, being in a rock band or something, just a very few number of guys. He's guitar, he's drum, he's, we all had our own jobs to do, and, we'd fight with each other, and we'd hang out with each other and go see movies with each other and stuff. And
certainly when I started working on Smash TV, it was myself, Mark Turmel, and I think there was maybe one other programmer at the time, and then Eugene Jarvis eventually came on.
Partly it was just the simplicity of the games of that era. 8-bit, pixel art, that a lot of the animation was just done with graph paper. Say Defender, all the animations of that game could be done in a week.
A lot of people think that, somebody up high says you're going to make a fighting game and you're going to call it Mortal Kombat and it's going to look like this, and then we go, okay, and do it. That's not how it worked at all.
It's a bit of the Wild West. There wasn't rules. There wasn't any, well, this is how you make a video game. Everybody made it differently. And as long as cool new stuff was showing up on your screen every once in a while, management would, peek their head in. Oh, you got fatalities going. Good job. And then they'd leave, and you just continue with it.
It was so pure. You didn't have to, have a committee meeting every time you wanted to add a feature. And
things were so loose back then. There wasn't really a workflow. It was like, hey, we need to get something done. Just do it.
It was just like, yeah, let's try this out, and see if it works.
And I think maybe a part of it was also that I wasn't conscious of might have been to keep costs down. I know what my salary was at the time. I don't know what Ed's salary was, but I have to believe that the development of MK in terms of the cost of us had to have been, I don't know, not much. And I remember at the end of my first year working at Midway, I was doing my taxes. My dad was helping me do my taxes. When I started at Williams, I was making $19,000 a year. He knew the hours I was putting in, and we did the math, and I was making probably $2 an hour is what I was making working at Williams, and I didn't care. I loved the work so much.
I know it's not a popular topic, but the overnighters and the going out for breakfast. Nobody told us to do that. Nobody said stay till midnight tonight. If anything, they were, you guys are burning yourselves out, and you gotta take it easy or something. So
because of the schedules and because of how few people there were, and we were all playing multiple roles, wore multiple hats, that there was just too much work. And it wasn't like we were being made to do this. It was an art. It was a craft, and it was a labor of love. So we were so passionate that we spent, all of our waking hours and our sleeping hours in the studio.
some people look back and they go, oh, that was that was abuse or something like that. It's like, no, we were guys in our 20s who were motivated to do something cool. You were working on Liu Kang's, flying kick, and it was feeling good, and you wanted to keep perfecting it, and it was my obsession. It was like being paid to do a hobby. If a band is up all night learning a song, they want to nail it, and it's the exact same thing. It's completely self-motivated.
Back then, it was nothing but fun. It was just, working there was just hilarious. The secret sauce was basically we were just a bunch of knuckleheads doing whatever we wanted, and we were happy. My job on MK1 was basically to do backgrounds. Like John would do characters and I would do the backgrounds. Things were very simple back then, like.
One more time.
He would choose which frames he wanted to use and then cut the background away from the characters, and that was his job,
Literally after we shot the footage, I think maybe that night or the next day, I started stripping frames right away. We did a lot of playing around with lighting. We were just sort of discovering. I think we probably taped more than we needed just to make sure that we got enough coverage.
I remember after the Sonya's leg grab, having to say something along the lines of, trust us, it's going to be really cool. The image was clear in my head. Sometimes we forget that it's not inside everybody's head.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, now once from the middle, all you have to do is just land right there.
Can you do that, or is that
The beginning part.
She should do it from the stance.
Right.
We were trying to get a film-like quality, but we wanted to just amp it up a little bit. And once we realized that pumping up colors really attracted people to our games, that was also our trademark.
A lot of the character design that I did for Mortal Kombat was based on the limitations of the hardware. So I knew that we had a limited color palette that we could work with. I knew that the pixel resolution kind of restricted what we were capable of doing. So bold colors, simple shapes would distinguish one character from another would be important. And I knew that a color palette that would distinguish one character from another was also important. And I was careful not to repeat those things.
The thing about the ninjas was, the nature of them, as you know, there were palette swaps of each other. It was all to save memory. You know, it was a very precious thing in our arcade games. And so Scorpion and Sub-Zero, they were the same character with different colors. You know, John wrote this amazing backstory behind them, making them enemies, and that added to the mystique of the characters.
In one of the pages of my notebook, I had scribbled, okay, here are the characters and here are their archetypes. I knew that, well, we need a hero, we need a villain, we need a sidekick, we need all these things. I was a big Joseph Campbell fan. I had read his books and I was aware of the hero's journey and the character archetypes that he had sort of outlined. I thought, okay, well, if we could tell implicit story through character archetypes, the players might sort of almost subconsciously relate to the characters in a particular way. So that played a part in sort of the character choices we made. I don't recall exactly why we did some characters and not others. I know that we were limited with the number of characters we could do. A few of them I remember not using. One of them was a character called Minamoto Yoshitsune. It was based on a Japanese mythological character. And another one was called Rakuro, who was based on, I think, a Japanese mythological beasts. Those two characters didn't make it in. I think part of it was because the names became a big deal for us. It's like, you know, how does this name roll off the tongue? You know, if a name was too long, we knew it was going to be difficult to display on the health meters. It was usually silly things like that would play a part in some of the choices we made.
Most of the characters' names came from John Tobias. A couple of the characters, he didn't have a name written down for them. He had Ninja 1 and Ninja 2. I was a little bit more of like a simple superhero mindset, so I started calling them Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Those simple names were kind of like my influence, but the authentic cool names, Goro, Shang Tsung, Kano, Raiden, you know, that was John's deal.
For Mortal Kombat 1, there wasn't a lot in the way of concept art that we did. Conceptualization was just limited to just scribblings in a notepad.
I don't remember many, if any, drawings of backgrounds, but there may have been some. I just remember kind of like I said, just winging it and doing whatever. Like John would say, I'd like a dungeon or something, and that became Goro's lair, you know. I had already learned how to do the parallax scrolling stuff from Terminator 2, so that worked out well with doing parallax stuff for Mortal Kombat as well. I know there was one specific background that he wanted, and that was with statues, the statue background. Just make something look cool. That was basically the rule. I went to Chinatown, and just to get references and stuff, there would be, you know, an interesting vase, and I would video that vase, and then I use that, and that's Shang Tsung's, one of Shang Tsung's thrones is like the vase, you know. There's the dragon that was sitting on Ken Fedesna's desk. I just said, hey, can I video that? And he's like, cool. So I grabbed it off his desk, took it to my office, and grabbed it. That's like in one of the backgrounds, and you know, there's two of them. You know, and then there's the pagoda in Chinatown that I videoed that and used that as, you know, the courtyard, I guess we call it, I think. You know, Shang Tsung is also in another chair, and it's that big roof thing. That's from Chicago. That's from Chinatown. So sometimes it meant opening a book and going, oh, that's a cool Chinese thing. You know, get the camera, take video of it, and use that. There are things from books in Mortal Kombat 1. You know, I just went out and grabbed stuff. What looks cool? Kind of a guerrilla artsy sort of way. It wasn't really planned all that much back then.
one of the really cool things about Mortal Kombat and about some of the really great games, if you have a really great winning concept, often, they got that game running in like a month. A lot of modern games, it seems like they spend all their time in this graphical wilderness trying to get everything looking so cool, and then they've got like 3 weeks left to figure out what the game is.
We had a very fast iteration. I would get art from John, we put it in, and an hour later, we were playing it.
Raiden wins.
The first time you play it, you just go, this is incredible. You knew you were on the right course.
Ed was just eager to have people in and give him feedback on stuff.
A lot of times it was just, someone, you'd have someone in your office to look at something and they go, hey, what about this? And then, maybe that's a good idea.
Ideas could come and be turned into reality in the same day.
Yeah, in fact, I remember we would record a little bit of footage.
Okay, one more time. All right, that's good.
And it wasn't until Ed actually got the frames and could get them in the game, not until that point would we know that we were making the right choices.
When we were making this game, Street Fighter II was the big rage, and I was a huge admirer of that game. At the same time, I felt like there was a little bit more ceiling room in terms of how outrageous you can get with the moves. We wanted characters using magic, disappearing, teleporting, doing all these kind of unpredictable things. And a lot of the moves were constructed from kind of almost like scraps. Kano's ball was from his flipping animation. Scorpion's teleport was from his jump punch animation.
Scorpion throwing a spear and pulling somebody in,
It was something that I remember I thought of that was just an outrageous move that wasn't seen in any other fighting game.
Right, although we used to try to do the wind up and throw is usually like 5 frames maybe. Like if you went like
yeah, something like that.
It was one of those spur of the moment inspirational ideas that ended up becoming like very signature, very iconic to Mortal Kombat.
The way he was implementing them was so interesting because he uses the frames of animation, and he was, as a programmer, would move them around to do things. Like he would define how things animated across the screen.
When we did the Liu Kang flying kick, you got to stop him once he makes contact, and it'll make the impact feel like it's a lot more intense and more forceful. Iterating again and again how important it is that we get the timing of all these things correct.
Other than, how John would define what the actual frames of animation were, Ed defined how things moved around.
There's little nuances that are put into the game that a lot of players don't identify, but they just know that it feels good, and they're not sure why.
I think that was a hard lesson to learn back in the day of, hey, I want this animation to be really smooth and I want it to be like 100 frames. And it's like, no, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. And it has to feel good.
Like, it's got to have impact. Impact and drama, that's what people are going to respond to.
Get over here, the uppercut was such a big, ridiculous reaction.
Getting the animation of the character, launching them into the air, putting the blood on it, being knocked down, and
they shake the screen.
And the sound call that Dan Forden did.
It's like, we need like a really big sound for a hit. It's like, okay, so I made like a really big sound for a hit. The scream of the attacker. The victim, yelling as he flies away. Put all that stuff together, it's like boom. It's like, oh my God.
I remember we were just walking around just doing uppercuts again and again and going, God, that feels so good, that feels so good.
That's how people knew when something was cool in any game. People were gonna be like, holy smokes. And now you know you have something. And then, so that, and then the fatality.
Like, fatalities were the big thing that made us a hit.
You know what would be a cool ass move?
One more time. All right, that's cool.
Do ninjas ever have any sort of?
That was cool, dude. What was that?
Ninjas ever have any sort of moves, whatever? You pull something with like an arrow, whatever. It's stuck into the other guy, and it dragged him across the.
Didn't you say?
Right, although we used to try to do the wind up and throw is usually like 5 frames maybe. Like if you went like
yeah, something like that. You can do the wind up. Maybe something more like you do like this, because you know what I'll do? I'll like trail the rope.
Right. Can you make where you throw the plane like I want the thing to hit the guy in the chest, you know? Because we have a bunch of frames from big now, and we can use that as a drag. So when you stop, your arm is parallel with your chest as opposed to way down here.
Okay, so try to do it chest level.
Okay.
A little bit more of a wind up. So that would be alright, because I could do like a little thing in the rope, more like this, like tie in, like a little snake in. Oh, you know what? Wait, you know what we should do? After he does that, we should have him do.
Well, I think you have to do like a.
Yeah, okay. So, do the throw, and then we need some kind of throw back.
Put your hands together and do that.
Okay. Yeah.
When you try your wind up with a little more like right now you're kind of just going.
Yeah. Okay, one more time.
What we should do, John?
What?
Is if we had 2 stance frames for him.
Okay.
One for the whole guy. I mean, it'll cost just 7 frames, but it'll just make him seem.
Yeah, alright. Okay, yeah.
It'll have to be kind of similar because they're both going to be going to the same punch.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But different enough that they're fighting each other.
We'll do that one stance you just did, and we need one slightly different. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take the yellow of your palette and have another ninja. But we're going to have 2 different stances. One ninja's going to have one, the other's going to have another. But we're going to use all the same punches. Alright, so let's do the first stance. Try doing this sound like this. Yeah, yeah.
A little slower.
A little slower, yeah. Okay. That's good. I should be able to get some of that. And then let's do the second one, which is.
The other hand kind of the same, but the one that was up before, try it like, on the middle. A little more tucked into your
More like this. Right. Yeah, we need.
Yeah.
Okay.
Raiden wins.
Street Fighter had this feature which I loved and hated at the same time. You can get your opponent dizzy. I loved the fact when I was the aggressor and saw my opponent dizzy, you're almost like salivating at this free hit that you get. And then I hated the idea of being the victim. I put the dizzy feature at the end of the fight. You just get like one last hit. And everybody would do an uppercut as your kind of like payoff. We had a feature that we had dropped in the game where Shang Tsung, when he would defeat you, he would take a sword out and he would like cut your head off. And we weren't going to use it because we were out of space, but we still had the animations of all the characters falling to their knees without a head. One day I just kind of piecemealed the idea of Johnny Cage uppercutting the opponent with this uppercut animation and then using the animations of the character with his head, you know, cut off.
Johnny Cage wins. Flawless victory fatality.
I showed it to John, I showed it to the rest of the team, and everybody lost their mind, and we have to do this. The fact that we gave the players the ability to actually perform this kind of death blow, this kind of killing move, was really the birth of that idea. Some people were kind of like saying, I don't think we can get away with, you know, letting the player kill the other player. So we showed it to management, and they loved it.
I was surprised that we could include the level of you know, blood spattering around that we did. But of course, you know, when I was working on Mortal Kombat, I had just come from Smash TV and Total Carnage. And so, you know, the levels of blood spattering around the screen wasn't new to me.
From that point on, it was, okay, now we got to think of fatalities for all the characters. Some of the later characters, we actually grabbed animations of them, you know, Kano ripping the heart out, Sonya doing the kiss of death and all that. The spine rip was a suggestion from John Tobias, referencing the movie Predator, and he said, why don't we do what they did in Predator where you pull the head out?
It's just like, oh, it was just like, oh my God.
And I remember saying, you know, I think that's probably crossing the line. We can't do it. Again, once we mocked it up, put it into the game, you know, there was no turning back. Everybody was just losing their mind.
And if anything, I felt like there was a bit of encouragement coming from other folks, you know, around the office, just because of the excitement that it drew from the players.
Everybody had to see this. No one had ever seen somebody removing someone's spinal cord. It really, it's interesting. It made it so much more emotional. It just like, you're just like, yeah, you know, it's almost like that barbaric, primal emotion, like, yeah, you know, like.
We never performance captured a fatality for Liu Kang, but there were some animations that we had not used. One of them was this really cool cartwheel kick.
Whoa. Yeah, let's grab that again, even if we don't use it. Right, we'll use it someplace.
We were both like, wow, we'll find a place for that. When it came time to do Liu Kang's fatality, we just spliced on the uppercut animation at the end of it, and it wasn't disgusting, it wasn't gross, it wasn't shocking.
Liu Kang wins.
And we just kind of reasoned with ourselves to say, well, Liu Kang's the hero, he's a Shaolin monk, he's peaceful, heroes don't kill people, so he just gave him a big uppercut. The process of adding fatalities into the game created so much energy in the whole studio in terms of their excitement for the game that we knew there was no backing out of it at that point.
Again, you're in a very small screen environment. You really have to exaggerate things. You have to make it just outrageous.
Scorpion wins.
We found the Holy Grail. It's like hitting the lottery. You know, it was something that we knew was going to be a signature part of Mortal Kombat.
I always judge a great game by how loud players get when you play. You yell at your friends and laugh, and the volume level is a measure of a good game for me.
And like I said, it was just fun and it was happy, and that may be the secret sauce.
The
again, when you see people playing the game and they're losing their minds and they're reacting to it, there's your fuel. There's your fuel for the next, for the next year to do it. So.
Who put the K in Kombat?
I did. I put the K in Kombat. I didn't come up with a name, but the K. This is my story. This is my memory, anyway.
I came up with mortal and the K instead of a C.
Yeah, well, you know what's going to happen? We're going to come up with all the names. We're all going to like them, and Ed's going to hate every one of them. Why? DEFCON is overused. Where? Everywhere. I've heard that so many times.
Yeah, every time you watch War Game.
Ed's probably right behind me, isn't he? Like, oh, no, you didn't.
I think there's different stories going on. This is my recollection. It's been 30 years. We had a bunch of words written on a grease board.
We didn't have a name, so there was a bunch of possibilities, and one of them was Mortal Kombat.
Kombat was written, I don't know if it had a K at the time, but Steve Ritchie, he said the words, "What about Mortal Kombat?"
They had Kombat on their whiteboard, but they were all a lot younger than me, and I'm not sure they ever heard of the phrase, "they fought in Mortal Kombat," meaning somebody's gonna die. It is what this game is about. It's Mortal Kombat.
And when he said that, from my perspective, it was like, whoa, there's the name right there. But I don't remember. Do you remember where the K came from?
Yeah, so what I remember was that. And then I think we went to legal with that name, Mortal Kombat with a C. And they came back and said no, because they couldn't trademark it. Because it was, I guess, a common term. I remember it was John Vogel,
right,
who wrote the K.
Yeah.
And in fact, he might have done that before that conversation with the legal department.
As a joke, I was in the room with Ed, and as a joke, I changed the C to a K, and we were like laughing about it. Ha ha ha, that'd be funny, oh, it's so stupid. And then, so I said, all right, and I was putting it back to a C, and he goes, no, leave it, just leave the K. And so that's my memory as how it happened.
No, it was me, because the C was like, I don't know, just look cooler with the K. That's my thoughts.
And then I think we went back to legal and said, what about if it has a K? And then they went away, and then they came back and said, yes, you can. If you put a K on it, we can trademark it.
Actually, John Vogel's involvement does ring a bell for me.
I don't think I was enamored with the K. I thought it was goofy. And then when the realization hit that, well, if we change it with a K, we can use Mortal Kombat, it's like, oh, damn it. We're going to give it, like Vogel was right.
Yeah.
So whether you hate me or love me for it, now C's are now K's.
This is the sound area. This is where they make all the sounds for the games.
I am an audio director here at NetherRealm. The sound guy, like, gotta get the voices in.
Dan shows you cool stuff every couple of days. He just comes in and you go, great, this is awesome.
And he's a lot like Ed, where I just have this confidence that, he's going to go away and come back with something spectacular.
That's the Johnny Cage Nut Crunch, I believe. Didn't someone make a candy bar, Johnny Cage Nut Crunch bar?
Again, we didn't know what we were doing, so it's just, okay, it's a fighting game, a lot of yelling.
The
A lot of pain. You know, I don't think we had enough memory to record, okay, this is Scorpion's voice, this is Sub-Zero. So we just, like the men, we just mixed and matched. And I think Sonya was the only female in the first one. So we had, obviously, a female voice for that. And that was hers. But the rest of them, I think, would just be shared. We'd just get the talent, which was just people around the studio. It's not like we were hiring people to come in and do this.
We recorded me as the announcer, as Shang Tsung. You know, Liu Kang wins. Finish him.
Liu Kang wins. Fatality.
You know, fatality. All of those kind of classic sound calls was me, because we didn't have somebody with a better voice. Later on, we found Steve Ritchie, who had a much better voice in terms of like an announcer.
Baraka wins. Flawless victory. Fatality.
I did a terrible Bruce Lee impersonation for Liu Kang. I think I did a yell for Kano.
Kano wins.
But I was also the voice of Scorpion, you know, yelling, "Get over here."
Get over here. Excellent. Come here.
I had worked with Dan Forden for many years at the time. I remember there was another sound guy who thought that was the stupidest thing in the world. And it kind of was, you know. Why would a ninja, you know, yell, "Get over here"? That's such like an American kind of thing.
Scorpion wins.
The idea was, again, the outrageous presentation. We really wanted to have, you know, just yelling and loudness in general into the game. From something that became with such silly roots and beginnings, you can't imagine Scorpion not having the "Get over here."
Ed would get me, this is back in the days of VHS, right? He would get me a playthrough of the background that I'd be working on. These are the instruments that I have, and look at the background, trying to think of like, well, what makes sense musically for this.
You try to imagine the action of playing the game and what the music's gonna do to like get you revved up.
Ever since, I don't know, the 70s, early 70s even, always liked progressive rock a lot. So a friend of mine turned me on to King Crimson in high school, and that's been like a love of mine ever since. And so there's no doubt that there's a lot of King Crimson influence in the Mortal Kombat music that I wrote over the years. You know, like the very first tune, it's a melody in a diminished scale, harmonized at the fifth. So that sounds like a lot of King Crimson stuff. I think they pretty much liked everything I did. I don't remember doing over too many things. Now and then there would be like, you know, maybe you should try this instead of that, and some sort of corrective feedback. But for the most part, it's just we were just kind of making it up as we went along.
Sub-Zero. Fight! Sub-Zero win. Fight! Sub-Zero win. Fatality. Fight! Sub-Zero wins. Fight! Sub-Zero wins. Fight! Sub-Zero wins. Fight! Liu Kang wins. Fight! Excellent. Liu Kang wins. Sub-Zero. Fight! Sub-Zero wins. Fight! Excellent. Finish him. Excellent. Sub-Zero. Test your might. Raiden wins. Fight!